review webinar number 2 in January. I welcome you all at this RTT LHDC RTT webinar number 2. This is a review webinar for our phase 2. And before we start, let me thank those key people who have made this possible for you and me to be present on this virtual platform, and for you all and for all of us, the trainers team and the experts team, to interact face to face as well. And these are all LHDC dignitaries. So I thank Honorable CC Sir, Honorable Deputy Chairman Sir, Honorable Deputy Commissioner Sir, and Honorable CEO Sir, who has just joined us. Welcome, sir, to this webinar, and Honorable CPO Sir. All of them have been very important stakeholders in RTT, launching, planning, designing, and executing. Without them, this project wouldn't have been possible. So I thank LHDC and the dignitaries profusely for making this possible for all of us to interact. And of course, funding, I would like to thank SECI, Solar Energy Corporation of India, for funding this program so that we could easily interact and make this program much more successful. Over to you, Tarana.
Absolutely. It's a great pleasure to be here again this month in January. I wish all of you a very, very happy new year. I also wish you that you have a very successful, very productive, and a very insightful year. We're very happy to be here with Nipa, Dr. Nipa, Amol sir, and greeting all the dignitaries for this LAHTC Reinforced Teacher Training Program in Ladakh. I've not been in the classroom with you all, but I've been absolutely observing and being online. And I feel like I know you and I'm connected to all of you. Thank you, CEC sir, for being here, Deputy Chairman sir, Deputy Commissioner sir, for being here this morning and for your support and involvement. It is really a pleasure to see such such involvement and attention from all of you. It keeps us inspired and motivated. Also in attendance, we have CPO sir, the ZEPO sir, and the Assistant Deputy Commissioner, I believe. And while looking at a lot of participants here, if I'm missing anybody from the dignitaries to greet, please accept my welcome. Please accept my greetings. We have a really good review of the last 2 topics in your workshops of phase 2 today. So before we move, before I hand it over to Amol and Dr. Nipa, I just wanted to do a little setup of the session. But Amol, please go ahead and greet, and then we will move on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tarana. So good morning, all of you. It has been a privilege getting this opportunity to work with the teachers of Ladakh on this LAHDC Reinforced Teacher Training Project. I welcome CEC sir, Deputy Chairman sir, Deputy Commissioner sir, for your support, encouragement, and the initiative that you have taken to make this program a success. The CEO sir, CPO sir, ZEPO sir, and all the other dignitaries who are present here and who have been supporting us throughout the last phase of the project. It's my great pleasure to be on this project. Without your support, this wouldn't have been possible. And of course, last but not the least, I would also like to thank, before we move on to today's refresher, I would like to thank all the teachers who have been such excellent participants in this particular program. They have participated very enthusiastically. We have had, along with, of course, the academic learning that we had personally, and I'm sure my colleagues also shared that same experience over here. We had a lot of fun working with teachers of Ladakh. So thanks all of you, and I hand over to Nipa for uh, explaining what we are going to do today.
All right, so over to you, Tarana. Could you please explain the session plan and the rules?
Absolutely. This is the plan today. We're going to look at our rules so that we all have active participation. And if there are any Zoom issues, I'd like to note that and make sure that you all have a recording at the end of the session. So we will be uploading the recordings for both phase 1 and phase 2 on Facebook after this session is done. For today's meeting, we have a quick review of phase 2 topics, reading and grammar, followed by some application activities similar to last time. For those of you who were here, we will share some insights. We'll be hearing from both your trainers, and there'll be time for Q&A and some feedback. So a quick overview of the rules. The first thing I'd like to request all of you to do is to make sure you type your name only once in the chat room, and you also change your name on your mobile device or your laptop by going to participants, touching on your name, and changing it from your phone's name to your name. This is very important for us to keep track of your attendance. Okay, so it's not on the session rules slide, but this is the most important rule of the session so that we know who is here and so that we can give you credit for being here. Okay, so please type your name once in the chat box, but also change your name that we see on the Zoom, in the Zoom window by going to participants, touching on your name and clicking rename. Okay, type your full name. Thank you so much. Some of you are complaining about no sound. On your mobile device, you have to choose sound through Wi-Fi or cellular. Otherwise, you may not hear us. Our sound relaying is absolutely clear. Most of you are hearing us. If you don't have a sound, you need to do an adjustment on your phone to make sure that your sound transmission is on. Okay. Thank you. Lots of you are typing names. I appreciate that. And most of you have changed their names on the screen. I appreciate that too. I still have a couple of names that say Vivo 1938 and so on. Please go ahead. There is a 29 Med T setting. Please change your name A1K. Please change your name to your full name by going to participants on your screen and clicking on your name and renaming. Okay. Okay, we have a hand raise. I'm not sure if that is intentional. Okay, and please mute yourself. Please mute yourself so that we are not interrupted. Okay. Going forward, your mic should be on mute unless we request you to talk. This will help us all because we all have background sound wherever we are, so we don't get disturbed. Please keep your cameras on as well. Again, this is mandatory. This is compulsory so that we know that you're here. If your camera is off, unless you tell me there is a bandwidth issue, our assistants will mark you absent because we cannot see you. So please turn your cameras on. Okay, I get to do the tough part here, set all the rules, but it's important. Okay, so cameras on, names on the screen. Very important for us to keep track of who you are and whether you are online with us today. Okay. Raising a hand, use this function when we ask you. So we have a few people who have raised their hands. I'm going to lower your hand. If there is an answer that we need from you, we will ask you to raise a hand later on. Okay. Keep your microphones on mute, please. We will ask you to unmute when we have any questions. Okay. Finally, today we're not doing a breakout room, so I'll skip that rule. So the only rule is to have fun, enjoy, review, and participate. Let's move on. Yeah. So tell us, how did you celebrate Losar? And here we go.
as I understood, it was on 25th of December, right? So here is the poll. How did you ring in your new year? How did you celebrate your new year? Did you go to the mountains and lit a lot of lamps? You traveled
Ladakh
to
must
your
be
village family
beautiful.
member?
Yeah.
I know. And can I request you all to send or upload the pictures of those well-lit lamps and those mountains, We would
Yeah.
love
Yeah, that
to
would be
have
wonderful.
that picture, Please go ahead and upload those pictures of your Losa
We
celebration
would love to
on
see
our
them on Facebook.
RTTFP page. Yes.
Many thanks.
Okay,
Great.
so yes, everybody is writing,
Oh,
travel to my
lovely. Lots
native
of family
village.
gatherings. Same here.
Excellent.
I'm here in Los Angeles, in California, and I feel like I've gained 5 kilos just eating all the Christmas food. So
I know.
meeting with the family and eating a lot of
I couldn't
sweets.
agree more. Yeah, New Year celebrations are meant to
Right.
have feast and to share love and joy and just to be together, as family, with friends, and with our loved
Very
ones. That's
special
what
time.
days are marked for. Right, Amol?
Yes, yes, I'm quite surprised that very few people have admitted to eating a lot of sweets there. I
I
I
think
think
know.
that
I'm
uh,
voting for that.
it's, yeah.
So am I. So am I. So, guys and girls, if you still have sweets left at home, please parcel it to us, and we'll be more than happy to partake all of that. Yeah, because all
It's
of us are
wonderful to see this.
now.
It's some people did
Yeah,
go to the mountains to light lamps. I would love to see photos of that. So please upload
I
them.
know. So would I. Please
Yeah.
upload the pictures.
All
So
right.
both of you have traveled to your village and met your family members. Great.
I
So
will,
all.
we would later at some point also like to, hear what New Year resolutions you have made. You've made some, you've written, I've made some goals that I've already started following. That's interesting because most of the New Year's resolutions, they are ignored by day 3 after making them. At
I
least
know.
that happens with me.
Day 3, aren't you being too optimistic, Amol? For me, it's just
Maybe.
the very next day.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So it's about, losing the 5 kilos and running 5 miles, whatever it is. Let's see.
For me, gaining some more before I return to India. So
That's good.
no, that's not in the book as of now. Yeah. So okay. So
All
happy to
right.
see this call. Okay. Now we move
Let's
on
get to
to
task. Over to you,
right.
Amol and Nipa.
Yes. So Amol, please go ahead.
Yeah, 1 minute. Right. Okay, so again, we will be reviewing what we learned, what we did in the sessions. Did reading module and the grammar modules. So we are going to have a quick review of the reading module. So you can see on your screen, there are some of the important points that we covered during the reading module. So I'm going to look at the first one. The first one says the personal approach and inclination to reading. Now, I have my workbook here. I'm going to just attempt and show you this particular table. Can you see it, Nipa or
Yeah,
Tarana?
it's
Could you
clear.
confirm
It's
whether
clear.
is it
Yes,
clear?
I can. Yes,
Yeah.
I can. I
Okay,
can.
okay. So this was your reading workbook, and there was this survey over here. There was this table. I'll just quickly read out what it was about. So it was about your reading habits. It was about what you read, under what conditions you read, where you read, what kind of stuff you read. It was about that. It was about filling up that table. So I'll just, for example, there were 3 sections, and it had options like yes, always, no, and never. So the first question, for example, was I like to read books in my free time. Or the second one was, I like discussing books I read and the authors I admire. And you had to
Amol,
answer.
Amol,
Sorry?
Amol, can I please interrupt you just for a second? I'm getting messages from people that they cannot hear what we are talking.
Okay, so is there a
Tarana, would you
technical
please
issue?
intervene? Tarana, please unmute yourself.
Nipa, we're supporting them on chat. So please, you, while presenting, keep going. Rinchen
All
and
right.
I are all
Okay.
supporting them. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And
Please,
setting.
Amol,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sevang. Yeah.
All right.
Amol, go ahead.
Yeah. So we had these different questions, or we can say statements, like I have a membership of a local library, and you had to answer whether in yes or always, whether you visit a library very often or you never visit a library. I hope all of you remember this particular uh, questionnaire that we did right at the beginning of the reading module. The second section was also about thinking about the people you know who read, like your family members or your friends or your colleagues or your neighbors, etc. And then the usefulness of reading, like I can learn a lot from reading. I like reading about my favorite topics and so on. Now, if you remember this particular questionnaire that we did it as a group activity. You discussed after doing it yourself first in a very short time, then we had a discussion over this, and the main idea behind this was to understand our reading habits. What kind of reading do we do? How we get influenced by the reading that we do on a daily basis or occasionally. And I'd also asked you, like from a teacher's perspective, that do you think this particular questionnaire would be a good questionnaire to use with your students? So if you, of course, you'd have to modify it, you'd have to adapt it, make it simpler. You'd have to simplify the questions, make it more relevant to your students' context or their level. And you could form a questionnaire, maybe a short questionnaire of, say, 5 or 7 questions, like what kind of reading do you like to do? Do you like reading stories? Do you like reading poems? Do you like reading articles? Tirana, there's a problem. I can't. Okay, fine. Yeah. So I hope you had a chance, or maybe when the new year begins in March, your academic year, maybe you'll get a chance to actually formulate a questionnaire which is similar to what we did. Give it to your students so that you know at the beginning of the year what your students read, what are their strengths, what kind of work you need to do with them as far as reading is concerned, developing the reading skill is concerned. So that is what this personal approach and inclination to reading exercise was at the beginning of the reading module. And I hope that you actually make use of it, adapt it for your learners, and try and understand what your learners or what your students read or what they like to read. Accordingly, you can plan your lessons throughout the year. The next point number 2 over here, is reading errors. Now, in reading errors, when we read, there are different ways in which people read. For this, I remember what we did was, we in your workbooks there was a uh, there was a there was a passage, and it was about losing body fat, what kind of diet you should have to in order to lose body fat. And I asked you to read this passage very quickly, and as we read, we saw that we make, sometimes everybody has a different way of reading. So some of the common errors that people or readers make while reading would be, for example, vocalization. So when we are asked to read something silently, we still actually mouth those words without actually saying them, maybe loudly, but we say them, we utter them uh, softly under our breath. But what happens is, because of that, our reading speed goes down, because we're actually physically saying each and every word or pronouncing that word, even if it is not allowed, but it's still being pronounced, so it's taking more time. Another common error that happens is pointing. So pointing, of course, you point on the line or on the word that you're reading, and as you read, you keep moving your finger along the line. Now, this is a technique that we teach students initially when they're young, because it helps them to, make that coordination between the line that they're reading and their eyes. So it's about developing their motor skills. But as adult learners, I think what we need to train them is in reading, not pointing, but just reading with your eyes. So scanning and skimming with your eyes, so that it becomes a faster process. It's not slow. Um, then we talked about eye span, if you remember. So reading, not reading word by word or word after word, but reading in sense groups or chunks that make meaning in the particular text. So understanding meaning as a group of words or chunks rather than reading each and every word individually or separately. Unless, of course, silent reading, all this is can you can also do reading aloud if you're practicing pronunciation. But as far as general reading is concerned, uh, reading silently, not pointing or not putting your finger on the paper or on the page, these are some of the, or not vocalizing the words, these are some of the techniques that we had discussed during the training. Now, for all the skills, you have sub skills. So same goes for reading. So in reading, there are several sub skills. Reading is the main skill, under which we have sub skills like skimming, scanning, reading for detail, and reading for inference. So we are going to very quickly, I'm just going to revise this, help you remember what we did during the training. So skimming is basically not reading the text in detail. It is going fast through the text, and the main purpose is to understand the gist or to understand the overall idea or the theme of that particular text. So when we read something like that, so for example, when you're reading a newspaper, you look at the headings. Now the headings are essentially the theme of the news report that follows. So when we read something, not to understand each and everything in it, but to get a gist of it, to get an overall understanding of it, that sort of reading, which happens quite fast, is what we is called skimming. On the other hand, the second sub skill, which is scanning, is different. Now, for example, you have a text which is, say, a long text. You don't need to read each and every word of the text. You are looking for a specific bit of information or a specific piece of information in that text. So what you do is you quickly scan through the text at a rapid pace, and when you reach the point, the information that you're looking for, that is the part you read in detail. So that sort of, when you read that way, it is called scanning. So we had taken this example, like, let's say you are at the railway station, and you have a particular train to catch, and you are outside looking at the digital board where all the trains are being, the timings and the platform numbers, the names of the trains, the train numbers, everything is displayed on the notice boards outside. Now, you're not interested in all the details about all the trains. You're interested in maybe the train name, your train. So you quickly scan through the entire board, the digital board where the information is flashing. And the moment you see the name of your train, you read that particular part, maybe whether it's on time or the platform number where the train will arrive. You are looking for very specific information. That sort of reading that we do is called scanning. We had discussed this. We had taken this particular example. Then you have other two sub skills of reading, which are reading for detail. This is when the entire text is important. You can't afford to miss out on any uh, anything in that text. You want to understand the entire text. So maybe when you're studying for an exam, you read a particular article or you read a particular lesson. Now that would be reading for detail. And then reading the last one, the fourth one, fourth subskill here would be reading for inference. Now, many a time whenever we read articles, the author does not directly say things. The author says it in a way which is uh, you have to read between the lines. So suppose somebody says, as you read that, okay, it was a very humid afternoon, it was about to rain, or and you infer that this was a wet day, this was a bad weather day. So it's not written, but you read because by you read for, you infer from that. Now that sort of reading, that sort of sub skill that we use many a time, to read between the lines, to understand the author's, what the author really wants to say, what is there on the page, and what the author wants to say through that. So that would be reading for inference. In our day-to-day lives, we read a lot of different kind of texts. So for example, you read the newspapers, you read emails, you read advertisements on hoardings outside, brochures, pamphlets. There are lots of things. You read lessons, you read articles, you read books, autobiographies, biographies, fiction, literature, so many different types of reading texts that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. So there are different types of reading texts, and I would ask Nipa to elaborate further on this, about
Right.
different types of reading texts that we encounter.
Right. Thank you, Amol. So as we discussed during our reading module, as readers and teachers, we encounter various type of texts, as Amol just now mentioned. And academically, as teachers, we should know how to classify those texts. And if you remember, I had drawn a flow chart on the whiteboard and showed you, mainly we divide this reading text into these sections. They are called factual and fictional. They are called formal or casual. They are called literary and narrative. Under the heading of literary, of course, those drama and drama, which has dialogues, play, and poetry, and other literary work of some well-renowned, writers and authors and all. Under the factual, if you remember, we had discussed narrative. That is, under narrative, we had discussed the discursive text, then the text which presents a biography kind of thing, a person talking about their own life, then the diary entries. Then we had discussed that there'll be articles and reports. These are all narrative type of text. Then you'll encounter text as teacher to teach to your learners, which might have one topic with two aspects. So you have to discuss both the aspects and let your learners derive their own conclusion. So these type of text are known as discursive text. Then there will be text where a problem would be presented and then a solution. So this text is known as problem solution text. There'll be text where you encounter some cause of some particular situation, a reason for some particular situation to happen. For example, why why does it snow so much in mountainous areas, right? So that's you'll encounter the reasons and the effect of such heavy snowfall on those areas in people's life, in their culture, right? In their all the way they actually perceive life. I mean, it impacts the the season can impact a people's life in very many ways. So that kind of text is known as cause and effect text. So we had discussed different type of text which we encounter in our course books. If you remember, I'll give you two examples. We did during phase 1, we did Kalpana Chawla text, right? Remember during SLA session? That was a kind of biography, yeah? And we during phase 2, we did the summit within, yeah? That was a diary entry. So as teachers, we have to deal with different type of text and to teach those texts successfully so that our learners do not miss the deeper understanding of those texts, we have to familiarize them with these kind of texts. In fact, we need to, give them kind of worksheets where they can classify or categorize this text. They should know what kind of text they are encountering, and so that they would develop reading sub skills accordingly. That's what different type of reading text meant in our module. Over to you, Amol.
Yes, so I think we have a poll coming up now. So we talked about the different sub skills. So here's one sub skill. So we use skimming skills when. Could you please put your answers in the poll?
Okay, so when do we use skimming skills, right? So
Yeah,
there are
yes.
4 options
Four
given
options.
to you. Oh, wow. Good.
So we have two
Amol, it seems,
responses. One
yes.
second. let's okay. Let's wait for a half
Few
a minute
more,
for
yes.
people to type in their responses.
Yes, great. It seems there are no takers for the third option. And fourth option also doesn't seem to be very popular, right?
So what is the correct answer? Looks like
It's the first one. So we use skimming skills when we want to understand the general idea of the text. So we are not interested in the details, but we are interested in the general idea of the text. So that's, yes,
looks
the
like
first
everybody's,
option is correct.
yes.
And I'm quite glad that majority of the participants have voted for the correct answer.
Good work, everyone.
Good work. Well done.
Yeah, I think we can-
They're still voting. The voting is still going on. And I think the option number
But now it's
1,
rigged, I think.
hands down.
now it's
Yeah.
rigged. We got the
Yeah.
correct answer. So moving on, I'm ending the poll. Yes, the correct answer is when we want to understand the general idea of the text is when we use skimming. Okay, good work.
Right.
There we go. Here is the result. Okay, we can move on to the next slide.
Over to you, Amol.
Yes. Right. So I'm going to quickly review the grammar module that we did in November last year, I'm sorry. So give me a moment. Okay. So we saw that there are two different approaches. One is a more traditional approach. One is something that teachers try and use more these days. So the more traditional approach is called the deductive approach, and then you have the inductive approach, and the methods that reflect these two approaches. So for example, if a teacher plans a lesson using the deductive approach, the method that the teacher uses is of the 3 P's or PPP. I hope that you remember what the 3 P's really stand for. So the first P is present, the second P is practice, and the third P is produce. So the approach is defined by this particular method, the PPP method, and that is called the deductive approach. Whereas in the inductive approach, there is no presentation initially from the teacher's side. What happens is the approach, or the method that is used by the teacher in the classroom is known as guided discovery. So we are going to look at both these approaches and these methods, what exactly goes into a PPP approach, a PPP method, and the guided discovery method, how the two are different and what they achieve different, both of them. We are going to have a look at it in the next slide. So the next slide will be coming up. Right. So we have the two approaches over here side by side, so that makes it easier for us to compare the compare and see what are the differences between these two approaches. So in the deductive approach, what happens is it's a completely teacher-led class. The teacher talk time is high. The teacher presents the grammatical structure that is the target of that particular class, of that particular lesson. So for example, if the teacher wants to teach the simple, no, let's say the present continuous to students on that particular day. So the teacher would give an example and then immediately analyze the sentence. So for example, a present continuous would be the subject plus the auxiliary verb, that is am, is, or are, plus the verb, the main verb with ing added to it, and then the object. That would be, the teacher would explain that this is the structure of a present continuous sentence. So basically the focus, if you look at point number 2, it says that the focus is on the form. So this is what we mean by the form. So it focuses, it analyzes the structure. So subject plus verb plus object. So the focus is on the form, not really focusing much on meaning or communication. So it could happen that learners know the form of a present continuous, but they're unable to actually use them in their spoken speech because they have not understood the meaning correctly. As it's a very teacher-led kind of classroom, in the deductive approach or in the PPP method, of course, as a corollary, the learners are passive. There's less interaction, there's less participation from the learner's side. It focuses, or it encourages learners to memorize. So it's like learning a math formula. So you have a formula for making say a present continuous sentence. Now using that as a template, the teacher expects the learners to make more sentences like that. So it's memorizing the formula. It is good for using or teaching simple structures, like it could be simple past or present continuous, present perfect. But when we are talking about longer structures, for example, clauses, sentences that have multiple clauses in it, relative clauses, it could be conditional sentences, then it becomes a little difficult to give a formula, because then, like a maths formula, it would go into, it would be a quite a long looking formula. So that analysis would become very difficult for, and here we are, remember, we are talking about young learners, we are not talking about adults. If you look at the 7th point, I'll come to the 6th point, but before that, since I mentioned young learners and adults, this method, it's not entirely wrong or bad. The whole idea is not to make it look like a villain. In fact, 70 to 80% of the times teachers still use this particular approach in their classroom. So it's a very popular approach. We are just concerned about the result. Is the result really good when teachers use this approach all the time? So it's good for adult learners. If the learners are, say, adults, they're working people, then it might be fine, because see, what happens is, as we grow older, our brain matures, and the ability to analyze things grows. It becomes much stronger when we become adults. But with young learners, the the ability to analyze is not so strong. They are more instinctive. They learn more unconsciously. Um, it is not something talking about these formulas. Also using now I come to point number 6, also using meta language. Meta language is like saying these things like subject and verb and auxiliary verb. I mean, these are the words that we use to talk about grammar or about language. So that is what we mean by meta language. So bombarding students or young learners with meta language only adds to their anxiety. I mean, linking this back to, what we did in phase 1, it was about the affective filter. I mean, people becoming more, I mean, learners becoming more and more conscious of the fact that they're learning and they have to reproduce it accurately. So this kind of meta language puts more pressure on them to. So if you remember, we talked about this, how can you replace meta language with simple words while teaching? But in the deductive approach, this is what they do. I mean, a lot of meta language is used. It's teacher led. It encourages memorization. Now, on the other hand, if we look at the other part of the slide, uh, you have the inductive approach where um, the method that is used is called guided discovery. Now, what happens is in guided discovery is, if you remember the lesson that we did, for every topic that we learned throughout phase 1 and phase 2, we had demo lessons. In the demo lessons, we used certain methodology to teach the lesson, and then we also actually sat and analyzed the lesson. So if you remember, we started this the lesson that used the inductive approach, the demo lesson, with a song by the singer Beyonce, If I Were a Boy. I hope you remember that song, If I Were a Boy. And so the teacher, I was the teacher there, I was doing a demo lesson. You were the pretend students over there that time. And I played the song, asked you, so did you find anything that was common, any kind of sentence that was getting repeated over and over again? And you told me that, yes, a lot of the sentences from that song start with the word if. And of course, I didn't really give you any rule at that stage in the lesson. I exposed you to more sentences through the means of maybe reading texts where similar sentences were being used. So these were the conditional sentences. So of course, the lesson was about teaching conditional sentences, but I didn't start by telling you that we are going to learn conditional sentences, or I didn't start by telling you that, okay, this is how you construct a conditional sentence. So you have if, blah, 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 and then you have a comma, and then you have the clause after that. So it was not, there was no meta language used, right? There was no presentation of the rule directly initially. So it was through the language, the samples of language that we exposed you to, that you yourself found out that, oh, these are the rules for making a conditional sentence. So you discovered, the teacher didn't give you the rules, you discovered the rules. And that's why it's called guided discovery. So it's not discovering randomly, it is because of certain steps that the teacher takes in the class. So that's why it's called guided discovery. Of course, since this is happening, the learners are very active. The focus is on communication and meaning. It's not on rote learning. It's not on memorization. Um, there is, of course, there's a chance of freer practice at the end of the lesson, where students can actually practice the structure that they've learned. And this is good for complex structures like conditionals, for example, where we are not memorizing things. It's being learned in a very organic or in a very natural subconscious kind of way, as against the deductive approach, which follows a very conscious learning pattern, what we call learning, versus this is much similar to acquisition. The process is similar to acquisition, like learners first language acquisitions. When babies learn their first language. This is something similar to that. You get exposed to that particular language pattern, that particular language structure, and the learner picks it up naturally. It fosters, what we call learner autonomy. So learners become more independent when the inductive approach is used. It develops their ability of critical thinking. It, invokes more curiosity in their minds. So that's why they're much more active in this particular, when this approach or this method is used, suitable for young learners. So this was a quick review of the two different types of approaches and the methods that teachers use in the classroom, the deductive and the inductive approach. With this background, moving on, we have a poll after this on.
Absolutely.
Tarana,
There
could
we
you
go.
show us the poll? Yeah. So the review question over here is, which approach, one second, let me read out. Yeah.
Encourages learners.
Yeah, encourages learners to work out grammar rules by looking at the examples given in the reading or the listening text. So can we have your vote? The first option deductive, or it's direct. Third option is inductive, and the fourth option is none of the above. So take half a minute. Let's see what the poll result is. So the wording of the question, I think, gives you a clue. Which approach encourages learners to work out grammar rules?
Nipa, are you there? I think.
She's
Yeah,
on mute. I think.
she's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nipa, you're on mute.
Please unmute Nipa.
Okay.
All
Now
right.
am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
So we are getting results more in favor of, yes. What would you say to this, Amol? Somebody is
So as I
in the
gave them a
favor of direct
clue,
approach as well. So
I give a clue here that this is an approach where the learners are encouraged. They are encouraged to work out the grammar rules for
yeah,
themselves.
the clue itself, I mean the
The question itself
verb
is
encourage
suggestive.
gives
Yeah.
out a clue to you guys, yeah. So there is a clue in the question for your answer. Direct approach, yeah. So does anybody know what is direct approach? Somebody has given their vote in the favor of direct approach. What do teachers do while adopting a direct approach? Just think about it. Okay, there are few people who believe it's deductive, but many of you are in the favor of inductive. What say you, Amol, Tarana?
Yes, so I would go with the majority
62%.
over here.
Yeah.
62, 64 now.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to go with the majority.
The
We have
majority
2/3
knows.
majority. We can also do a constitutional
Majority
amendment
wins.
with
This
that.
is a democratic
Yeah.
country, right?
That's right. So I'm going to end the
Majority
poll.
wins.
Let's look at the results.
Yes.
And the majority wins.
Yes. So the correct answer is yes, it's inductive approach where
Inductive.
we never give out forms, definition, and structures right at the start of the lecture. We let learners work out rules for that particular structure, like we did for that second conditional lesson. Yeah, demo lesson. Remember, all of you? So this was inductive approach. By the way, what we do in the direct approach is teachers never use any other language in the class but English. All the explanation takes place in English, irrespective of the level of the learners. Even for beginners in direct approach, no bilingualism is used in the class, and everything is taught in the target language, irrespective of their understanding. That's what direct approach means. Yeah. Okay. So this was inductive. Over to you, Amol.
We have one more poll before
Okay,
Amol goes on.
we have one more poll over here, and the question is, which of these activities are done during a PPP method grammar, that is a deductive approach grammar lesson? Which of these activities are done? So our options are presentation of a prompt related to the grammar topic, form and structure of the grammar item on the whiteboard, written and oral exercises using controlled practice, or the last option is all of the above.
Let's see if the
So the
majority wins
question
this time.
says- Yeah, let's see. So the question says whether one of these activities happen during the PPP method or all of these activities happen. You have to decide, right? Do we present a prompt related to the grammar topic, or we present form and structure of the grammar item on the whiteboard? That is, we write. And we give them written and oral exercises using control practice, or we do all of this in PPP.
So Nipa,
Present, practice, and produce.
going back to the example I gave a little while ago. So if the teacher is teaching present continuous and says,
Right.
I am playing cricket, I am, so
Right.
that would be a prompt presented by the
Exactly.
teacher.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then if I say that, okay, I is the subject and am is the auxiliary verb, and the play is the main verb, ing. So I'm
Then
giving
you're
them the form
presenting the
and structure.
structure.
I'm giving them the
Right.
form
You're
and
presenting
structure.
the form and structure.
And
Perfect.
and then with this formula, I ask them to solve a few more exercises, written or they might be oral, as controlled practice. So
Right. So that would be a practice stage in PPP.
yes.
Yeah.
So okay. So
Let's see.
Let's see what the I'm going to end poll.
Okay.
This is the majority.
I think some of them have caught on to the
Right.
clue
Clues.
here.
The clues. So good work, though. There is a slight tie between the, it was not an easy one here.
Yeah, so form and structure of the grammar item we always present during PPP. But by the way, as Amol just now described, we do all these 3 steps and one more. We encourage them to produce the target language under our guidance. So that is what PPP. So the correct answer is option number.
The fourth,
Yes.
last option.
Right, option
Yeah.
number 4, all of the above. Yeah, so here, I'm sorry, but we won't be able to upload all of you. Although we would have very much liked to, yeah, but there is a tie. Most of you have voted in favor of option number 1. Yeah.
Or you want to see it again one more time?
Most of you have voted in favor of option number 1, but the correct answer is option number 4. We do all the 3 steps during a PPP method lesson. All of the above. Option number 4 is correct.
So review a little more, because all these options will allow you to are a part of the activities that you can design, right?
Right.
Will allow you
So
to.
in a PPP lesson, present, practice, and produce, we do all these 3 steps, plus we encourage them to produce target language, a newly taught target language under teacher's guidance, right? So again, it is a semi-controlled activity, the production itself, yeah? So that's how a PPP lesson would look if you really design it. By the way, as Amol mentioned, we have demonstrated a lesson for each module, be it reading, be it speaking, be it listening, yeah? So now my question to you, for you to mull over when you go back home after this session is, are you in the process of designing your lessons according to the lesson stages which we dissected and discussed in detail? Do you take any clues from the demo lessons? Think about it and we'll talk more about it. If you have any questions regarding lesson designing in our question and answer session. Over to you, Amol.
All right, so we have reviewed the modules that we did in the last phase, which was teaching reading skills and teaching grammar. And here we have a reflection poll. How is your classroom teaching different since RTT? So this started in September. We had another phase in November. So it's been 3 or 4 months that this training has started. So have you noticed any change, or have you adopted any kind of change in your actual teaching practice in your classrooms? So there's a reflection poll over here. You can see it on your screens. There are a number of things like I design my grammar lessons following the inductive approach, or I enjoy teaching grammar using the methods I've learned, or about audiovisual and other interactive activities, or including the sub skills of reading. And I create more opportunities for students to use English in the class. So if you have been doing any of these things after attending this training, you can mention that in this poll. So this is to reflect, this is to kind of see what we did and how much it has helped us in our actual classroom teaching. And what
Clearly,
is
there
that?
is no correct or incorrect here.
Yes, there's
Right,
no correct
here
or
there's
incorrect.
no correct option, okay? So you can choose whatever you wish, what actually you are doing right now in your classroom. That is what, or what you would like to do. Yeah, if because it is winter vacation.
I think a lot of people are choosing the last point, which is I create more opportunities for
And that's
students. And I think that's
very
excellent because
encouraging.
yeah,
Yes.
because I think the overarching idea behind this project is this, that students get more opportunities to speak in the class, because that is the only way in which they are going to be confident or proficient in the language. No matter of lecturing is going to help them as long as they don't feel confident from within to use the language in different kinds of situations. So, and for that
Absolutely.
creating those opportunities in the class, because we know that in most of the homes they do not get an opportunity to use English. So it
Excellent.
is in during school time, during, and that too, again, when we are talking about school time, we are not talking about all the school lessons. I mean, we are talking about English, the English lecture, the English period in particular. So that's the time when teachers have the opportunity to create these opportunities
Yeah.
for students. So I think if you are clicking on that, if you're doing that in the class, we really want to congratulate you if you're doing that, and I want you to do that
Absolutely.
even more in the
Absolutely.
future.
Yes. And I'm happy that you're creating such opportunities. That means you are converting your learning environment to that of a learner-centered environment. And this is what every student would want, right? For you, your students are in the center of your learning designs. And I mean, we couldn't ask for anything more. What say you, Tarana and Amol?
Absolutely. I
Absolutely.
think that,
Yes.
in a situation where English is a second language, where we are not surrounded by it day in and day out, we have the magical powers to make our classrooms an immersive experience for our students, right? So I think that is what we hope for.
I also think, Tarana, that when students who are otherwise a little worried about, they might know the language, but they are afraid of using it in real life situations. When you create these opportunities in the class, I think that kind of preps them for real world situations.
Yes, it's a
So it's
safe
not like
place,
they're,
right?
yeah, so it's like
And our ultimate aim is to prepare them for the real world interactions.
Yes.
Yeah?
yes,
Not within the four walls of the classroom, but they should be well prepared to speak and use English in any situation they face in the real world.
So the
and
confidence building starts in the classroom, right? Where you do these various kinds of activities, where you create these opportunities through grammar, through reading, through using different technologies like audiovisual. All these add up to becoming a confidence building, occasion for the students, so that they start feeling more and more confident about using what they know. Not just
Definitely,
it's just not going in, but it's also coming out, right? We
so
just
it's
exactly. So
to
input and output both are equally important, right? Because if we keep on, providing input without any, tangible outcomes, if we cannot assess how much input has influenced our students, then there's no point, I think, right?
Yes.
Teaching.
I'm going to leave the reflection poll on for another 30 seconds. It seems like we still have about 20 people who have not answered. 73% of participants have answered. So if you have not yet taken the poll, please go ahead. This is an important one to help you think about each of these statements, is a clue that we're giving you to observe and to follow in your practice. Right,
also,
so
I
please-
think I would reiterate what we said right on day one of this training, that the whole idea is to look at English as a real life skill, or to look at English as a language and not as a subject that just
Perfect.
needs to be,
Yes.
learned so that you get good marks in your exam. So that's not the whole purpose of learning any
Yeah.
language. It's
It
to,
can never be overemphasized that
yeah.
English is not just a language, but an essential one at that. Won't all of us agree? Yeah. Because if our students want to excel in the real world, in their career path, in the social circle, in increasing their knowledge about, when they want to do their extensive reading, want to enjoy some good movies, internationally acclaimed good movies, or some international music, for everything they would need to master this language. So creating more and more opportunities for them to use English within the four walls of classroom, which links them to the real world. That's perhaps the best way to go forward.
And I
for
think
us.
I think of course, no denying that English is an international language and it's so important. At the same time, if you look at a country like India, where there's so much linguistic diversity, if you go to from one region to another, many a time it
Correct.
happens that English happens to be the only link language between people.
Definitely,
So, for
yes.
example, a person from Punjab going to Tamil Nadu, the only language that is really common between a Punjabi person and a Tamil person is English. Whether it's a good
Definitely.
thing or a bad thing, I don't really want to go into value judgments over here,
I
but
know.
that's the reality. That's the
That's the
situation in
reality,
India right
yes.
now.
And let's
Definitely.
face it, it's also the language of access to knowledge and access
Yes.
to connections. So we are preparing the future generation for
Absolutely.
accessing their future opportunities through English.
Right.
And we can't deny that. So moving on, I want to ask everybody, everybody who is here, to turn on their videos, because we're now moving onwards to an activity, to two activities. And it's important for us to know that you're here, because your attendance will be marked only for the people who are on video. We have our coordinators checking. We want to honor those whose videos are on. So thank you. If you have terrible connectivity issues, which I doubt it, I think everybody is fully connected. I'm not seeing any interruptions. Please turn on your videos for the activity part, especially because this is where you really apply your learning, right? So a little
Exactly.
note from me. Video on means you're here. Video off will be absent.
Means you are not here. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree, Tarana.
Yeah.
I request you all to please keep your video on for the next activities. So yes, Amol, please go ahead.
This is you, Nipa, the reading
Okay.
task.
Oh, yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So now let us look at this classroom scenario. You have a student who is reasonable, who is doing all, very well. In fact, he or she answers comprehensions questions requiring all the factual information. For example, when was King Akbar born? So they can find the date and the year, no problem there, right? So all the factual information, they have no problem. But when you ask them to answer about the opinion or the stand of the writer of that particular text, for example, if they're reading through an article where the banning of plastics, use of plastic is discussed, they don't know what the writer is trying to say. If you ask them what is the opinion of the writer of this article, they are totally confused. Because here the writer has discussed both the parts, use of plastic and what will happen if we stop using the plastic. So they are totally confused what exactly the writer's opinion is, because it's not been put in black and white, but that is, there are no such lines or sentences which tells them that this writer believes this about banning of plastic. He is for banning of plastic or he is against the banning of plastic. So now my question to you all is, how can you help this student so that he or she understands the opinion of the author? And in order to help this student, what kind of activities would you plan? What kind of activities and what kind of sub-skill you would like to develop in this learner? Yes, you have 30 seconds to 1 minute, 60 seconds to think about. And please raise your hand. You know what to do, which sub-skill is lacking and how to help them. Please raise your hand. Tarana, could you please expand? Yeah, thank you. My question, let me repeat my question. How can we help this student who is struggling to find the opinion or stand of the writer or the author from the text? What kind of activities we can, plan?
Nipa, we have one participant who has raised her hand,
Yeah.
Sering Angmo. Please unmute, Sering.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Could you
Good
come to the
afternoon.
camera? We can't see you. We can see something, but not. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, hi, Sari. Go ahead.
Oh, we lost your face again.
Am I?
There's a little disturbance, but we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Skimming activities.
Please come again. I didn't get you.
Skimming
What
activities. Skimming. She's saying skimming.
All right. Skimming activities. Why would you say so?
Skimming activities because the student has been able to understand what actually has been asked directly.
So what does skimming give you? What kind of information do you get when you skim a text?
When
Oh,
I'm sorry, but we lost you, Sari.
Sering, maybe you can, for this, we saw your video on already, so maybe you can turn it off for a few moments. It might help your sound. You can turn off your video. It's okay. I'm going to stop it and let's see if that works. Sering? Yes, we can hear you.
I don't think we can hear.
There is a signal issue. Sering, please type in chat if you can. Please type your answer. And thank you so much for raising your hand. Is there anybody else who would like to raise their hand? I think we lost her connection. So you can go to your Zoom panel down below and raise your hand as I had showed you before. Please feel free to unmute yourself and speak up. Yes, we have Rinchin Angmo. Rinchin, please share.
We can use reading for inference method where you have to read between the lines. and-
Excellent.
Yeah, and the student or the learner can understand what the author wants to say through that particular text.
Exactly. So can you explain what exactly reading for inference is?
Where you read between the lines.
Excellent. You make a guess, you make a prediction, you derive conclusion, right? You derive some judgment based on your understanding
Yes.
of the text. Excellent. So what type of activities would you encourage for this learner? What kind of activities would you design?
Okay. We can give a passage
Hmm?
and then make them mark like wherever the writer's important points the writer discuss or the author discusses. So
Okay, but how would you decide that these points are important? Or at least how would you teach that learner that these are the points he or she should look at?
I think we can form some questions prior to the reading.
So
Then-
these questions would be yes and no question, or
Yeah, we can do multiple choice questions.
Yes.
okay, great. So and would you like to ask some open-ended questions as well, which
Yeah,
doesn't
oral
have
questions.
specific options?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. So by asking questions, eliciting answers, checking their understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a student who doesn't understand the whole text, would you like to start with a passage straight away, or would you like to, lighten the cognitive burden on the student and start with a long sentence where they are supposed to derive their understanding or conclusion? And then once that learner has gotten the hang of it, then you move on to the next stage. That is from sentences to where do we go?
Paragraphs. I think she's having a.
Excellent. Paragraph.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So thank you, Rinchin, for
Well,
sorting
you.
out the difficulty the student had. Yes, you were right. Spot on. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Rinchin.
Sorry,
Thank
is
you
there
for
an, is
raising
there
your
an,
hand.
is there an echo
Yeah.
in
There
your
are other
voice, or
activities.
am I hearing it?
Can
That
anybody
was
think
because of
of-
Rinchin's connection. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Can
Yeah.
anybody think of any other activities?
One more hand raise, please. Speak up. I think this is a good time for you to share your knowledge.
Yes.
Just go down to your participants, to your Zoom menu bar in the bottom, and you can raise your hand from there, or just unmute and speak up. We've had
Anybody?
we had quite an elaborate response from Rinchin. Thank you. And also, I believe the first participant, sorry, we have somebody on chat, Ishe Youngmo, also talked about reading for inference on chat. Thank you, Ishe. That is absolutely
Thank you,
accurate.
Ishe. Yes, reading for inference. So Ishe, would you like to type what exactly you would like to do with this learner? If you cannot speak up, you can always type it in the chat box. I'm very interested how you would tackle this problem in your classroom.
Hmm. Okay.
All right. While we are
Looks
waiting-
like we're ready to move on. Nipa, sorry, you got muted. Yeah, I was
Let's just move on.
Yeah.
But before we move on, let me tell you that sometimes getting the unsaid or unwritten message for certain level of learners is very difficult. Here, I can suggest just two things. One is sometimes accompanying pictures or pictures accompanying text can help you and the learner a lot. So try and, include pictures and such clues so that they can come to that inference. Second thing is, of course, practicing. Never ever lose a chance of giving them extra practice for deriving inference, because at the end of this webinar, we'll see why it is so important, right? And how it links to metacognitive strategies a learner applies to learn a new language, right? Okay, so you
And
already
we
done
have,
this? Yeah.
So we have a thinking poll. This was Nipa, just to make people think before they moved on to the next, the actual part of the problem. Would you
Right.
like the thinking poll now, or do you want to move on to the problem itself?
No, we'll just move on to the problem because we already clarified
Yes.
whatever
Yes.
needed.
Yes.
Okay, so now all of you, please look at this very short text and then look at 2 questions, on the left side of the text, and please raise your hand to share your answers. Yeah. The text, let me read it for you. Padma walks into the kitchen wearing her sun hat and a pair of old shoes. And then there is a quotation mark, as you can see. Those vegetable plants are growing very fast, she exclaims to Rinchin, as she takes off a dirty glove and wipes a speck of dirt off her face. That's where your text ends. And now there are 2 questions waiting for you to be answered. Question number 1, where was Padma before she walked into the kitchen? And how do you know that? Yes.
We have a couple of hand raises by Sering Angmo, Sonam Choron.
So let us go to Sonam.
Yes. Sonam, please unmute, and if you can, turn on your video.
Yeah, I'm getting some answers here in the chat box. Thanks for Yunton for answering. Yes, let's hear you out, Sonam. Go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
We have one more, Tupstan Lotus. We have 3.
There are 3 hand raises.
Yes.
I can see that. 4.
And one
4.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's
Great.
move quickly through the answers, Nipa. We are half an hour away from end, and we would like to have some time in the end for some addressing
Yeah.
by the
So go
dignitary.
ahead, Sonam, please answer the question.
Yes. Yes.
All of you can type the answers in the chat
Yeah, there
box
are some
because-
answers coming in the chat box
Yeah.
right
Amol,
now.
go ahead and comment on them, please. Yes,
One
I'm just
second.
moderating. So we
Yeah,
have,
so
Mhm.
Sering Angmo says kitchen garden.
Yes.
Yeah,
Then
that's
somebody
right.
else also
Alisha
answered
says in
Padma was
garden.
in garden.
Vincent
Yes.
says kitchen garden.
Yes.
Sering Lanzes said Padma was in the garden, and we know it as she was wearing a sun hat.
precisely.
So from
And
the
why
Rinchin
would you
poem,
say she was in the garden? Just sun hat? She could be out on the road as well.
Also vegetable.
vegetable garden.
So vegetable plants. And what is another clue which tells us that she was definitely in the garden?
Let's take
What was
it
that?
to Sangas Lamo or Sering Dolkar. Please unmute and share. Oh, Sevang Norbu is also on video. Sevang, why don't you start? Please share. Please unmute. Sevang, can you hear us? Yes. Please continue.
She was wearing a hat,
Hmm.
and also her hand was dirt.
Excellent.
she
Her
were-
hand
yeah,
was
yeah.
dirty. Yes.
Yeah. It shows she was working in the kitchen garden.
Excellent. So these 2 clues told you that she was very much in her kitchen garden because she talks about vegetable plants and she is wearing a sun hat, is wearing gloves. Generally, people while working in the garden with soil and mud, they wear gloves as protection. And then she wipes dirt off her face. Yeah, so she's been working hard in her kitchen garden. Excellent. Yeah.
We
So
have a
as
few
you
more
can see-
clues, Nipa, on chat where Rinchan Dolma said, because of old shoes also. And Sering Angmo is
shoes, yeah.
saying she's
Yes.
talking about vegetables, tending to the plants with gloves on, and also
Yeah.
cleaning a speck of dust from her face.
Yes. Excellent. She was wearing hat, gloves, old shoes, speck of dirt on her face, and she's talking about vegetable plants. Yes, all these were clues. So, what you did I write that she was in a vegetable garden? No. Till you knew, right? So this was you inferred,
Mm.
right?
So this
an
is like a detective trying to solve
yeah,
a
you are
crime. Yeah. So there's mud on your. So this is like Sherlock Holmes.
I know. So an inference is a conclusion or maybe sometimes a prediction made by using evidence and reasoning, right? We use the proof and the reasoning, and we use available information in the reading passage or the text to make calculated or informed guesses about what is not written in the text, right? So generally in common language, we say that we read between lines. Yeah, reading between the lines means it's not written here, but still we could understand. Yeah, and it's a very, very important sub skill to develop among our learners if we want them to develop deeper understanding of the reading text. Yeah, next please.
We're moving to the next task.
Right.
And Amol will take this on. We have about a few minutes, and we have some requests for messages at the end, Nipa, from
Right.
Rinchan. So let's continue, Amol.
Right.
Okay.
So we come to the next applied learning task, which is a grammar task. So the situation is that you're teaching the simple past tense. The first question is, what examples could you make? And secondly, what real life activities would you design for teaching this tense? So both controlled practice activities as well as freer practice activities. So what examples could you make? Can somebody volunteer to answer this question? You can take like half a minute to think over it. Imagine you're teaching the simple past tense. So what kind of examples would you make?
Please remember the rule of personalization
Okay, so we have some
attaching relevance.
Yeah. So whatever examples we use in the class should be of the level that is appropriate for the learners. Secondly, they should be relevant, something that they relate to, they identify with. So Tupstan Lotus says, I'll ask students what did you eat yesterday? Okay, good.
Great. That's a good
Yeah,
way to
so it
start.
could be like, what
Yes.
did you eat? And the answer that you get is, I
Yeah.
ate tukpa, for example.
What did the student have in breakfast? Yes, you can ask that too. What did you have in breakfast? Yes.
So
Anything else?
I had toast and omelette. So I had. So yes, so you're eliciting examples of the simple past over here through your questions. Right, good. Any other?
But when you
We
are
have
teaching
seven.
this
Mhm.
tense, let me interrupt these chats and
Mhm.
messages. When you are teaching, you don't assume they know the past forms, right? So
Mm.
how would you set an example and how would you elicit such examples, similar examples? So what would you have to do before you
Yeah.
start eliciting such examples? What would you do? Yes. What did we do, Amol and I? Yes.
So what we generally do is we have some kind of a lead-in activity.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
where we tell them a you personalize the entire context. So you say that, okay, I'm going to tell you what I did yesterday. I had a very interesting day yesterday. So
Exactly.
I went to the market. There I saw a lot of different, I went into different shops. I purchased this. I did a lot of shopping. So you kind of give them samples.
Models,
Yeah,
right?
the
A model
samples,
or a
models.
samples,
Yeah,
yeah, from which they can construct the tense without knowing the rules, because you're just starting to teach them. If you look at the question, you are teaching the simple past. You are not revising. Yeah.
right. So
There's a difference between revision and teaching, right?
and we are also trying to, use the inductive approach here as much as possible and not make it deductive by saying that, okay,
Precisely.
this is,
Precisely.
I've used the simple past tense of the verb here, or this is verb to. So we don't go into that jargon. We don't use that meta language. Instead, we just take actual real life examples of that language and let them notice what the target language
Right.
here is that you're trying to teach them over
I
there.
got an interesting answer here. I'll make them read history lesson in which all simple past
Yeah,
sentences are written. Very nice.
very
Very nice.
nice, very nice,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yes.
Yes,
Interesting.
yes.
Okay. So now activities. We move on to activities. Which real life activities would you like to link with the teaching of simple past tense? Think carefully. I'm talking about real life activities, nothing related to the textbook, course book chapters.
Right.
To reiterate their learning of simple past and to make the simple past tense learning relevant to their life experiences, what kind of activities?
Both
Excellent.
controlled
Tell
practice
them
as well
to-
as, yeah,
Yes. Somebody sharing is writing, tell
sharing
them to write
Anmo,
about
yeah.
how they spend their winter vacation. Yes. Or anything else? That's a good one, sharing. Yes.
Okay.
Will you straight away start with writing? That's my first question. How was the law, sir? Excellent.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good because that's very relevant. They
That's
will be
so
able to
relevant. Yeah.
produce a lot of appropriate
Simple past
language over
language.
here.
Yes. Yes. So first we'll start with, yeah, controlled practice. Okay. So for controlled practice, what will you do? Yeah, asking student what they did yesterday,
Yes.
last year's educational trip, yes.
Okay, good.
But when we talk about controlled practice, what do we mean by controlled practice? As you know, it has to be designed and controlled by the teacher. So what kind of design you'll have, which is so relevant to the real life, but they won't have to think much or struggle much? What would you do? What kind of worksheet you can provide? Have you thought about it? Remember the
So-
word scaffolding? All of
Yes.
you? Tell them to use only second form of verb. As Amol just now mentioned, we are stressing more on inductive approach. So will you still tell them to use the second form of verb?
So
I
maybe
don't think so.
Nipa, what we could do is give them sentences that are in the simple past with the verb in as a blank over there, and maybe give multiple choices for them
Excellent.
to fill in
Yes.
the verb. So
Yes.
fill in the right form of the verb.
Right.
So maybe
Or yeah, or we could just give them a table where there are sentences. For example, this was how Amol's day went on one side of the table, and this was how Nipa's day went. Now compare both their days and tell us what went well for them and what really did go so well for them, right? So there, right there is a lot of language resembling simple, having simple past verbs, regular and irregular. They are comparing, they are so much involved in these two people's lives. One day of their lives, and what is so similar, what is not similar, right? Again, we are linking the life experiences to the learning.
Nipa, just a
Right.
time check. We should move to the insights. We're getting close to finish.
Right.
Okay, right. Yeah. So
We have a lot of,
sorry.
just quick interruption, acknowledging all the responses in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for putting all your responses there. Just
I know.
making sure.
And all of you have come up with some brilliant ideas,
Ideas.
right? Only one thing I would like to say here is please try and make them relevant to the real life experiences. That's the only thing. Just link those ideas with the real life and just see how well they take up your grammar lessons, right? You won't have to repeat them endlessly with them. Yeah, okay. So insight number 1 of this webinar 2, review webinar 2 for phase 2 on the 10th day of the January 2023 is metacognition. Don't worry, I'm going to break this word or term up for you. What do I mean by metacognition is, we've already discussed cognition. You've heard this word. Tarana, could you please expand? Thank you. That is to think, right? So here we are thinking of the thinking process. By metacognition, what I mean is learners think about how they learn. First of all, what they learn, how they learn. They think about the problems in learning that particular structure or topic, and then they think about the ways to solve the problems. The whole process is known as metacognition, and it has recently come to the light of the linguist. Not so recent, if I may say so, but yeah, more than a decade now. For us, it is new, but including metacognitive activities in the classroom is a must in the Western world, right? And when I say metacognitive activities, the word or the term is very heavy, but we do it day in and day out. When we introduce our learners to reading comprehension, when we introduce our learners to writing, what we do is we are initiating them into metacognitive activities where they decide what exactly they want to learn and how exactly they will learn it. And encouraging reading sub-skills such as reading for inference mainly. Next comes reading for in detail, is a way to lead them towards their metacognition activities. And what would it do to your learners? Well, they'll become autonomous, which you want. They'll become independent, which you want, and they'll be deeply engaged in what they are learning. It's as simple. If I know what I want to learn, if I know how I want to learn, whether by watching videos, listening to audios, reading a lot of things related to that topic, or discussing it with my colleagues and with my teacher, if I get to decide it, obviously I'll be more interested in what I'm doing, right? We are free birds. Yeah, our souls want to be free, all of us as humankind. So if you give your learners this much of space to learn and how they learn, right, then it really becomes a great way to make them independent learners. So this is our insight 1. And before we move on to insight 2, I would like to invite Chief Education Officer, sir, to say a few words to all of us, teachers and our panel. Please, sir, say a few words and encourage all of us.
Rinchin, just responding to a request so that we don't keep the dignitaries waiting.
Yeah.
Are we,
thank you,
is
Dr.
this a
Deepa.
good time? Yes. Yes, sir.
And it was really very interesting session, and for taking this review session right in the time, so that teachers keep in touch with all that they have learned during the RTT sessions. And I must say to all the teachers that they should keep in touch, and they must keep asking questions, and keep in touch with you people in future, so that the outcome of this RTT will become very fruitful, and it becomes really it's a stepping stone that can be followed by the next teachers who are about to having their RTT sessions in the 2023. Thank you so much, all of you, and all the members of Golden Mile, by taking this initiative of second review of Khalse. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for being present and encouraging us, and your encouragement and support mean a world to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a big pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah,
Namaste.
also Tiangle, Tarana, and Dr. Nipa and Amol. I would request you to please check if Mr. Gelson is trying to join. CPO, our Chief Planning Officer, sir, would be addressing the crowd.
Miss,
Right.
Kelson,
So Tarana, while Tarana is doing that, let me move on to insight number 2 for our webinar, review webinar number 2 on the 10th day of January 2023 for an LHDC project reinforced teacher training today. We need to encourage extensive reading among students to enrich their vocabulary, improve their writing skills, and to improve their speaking as well. As we all know, if we provide input, this is our phase 1 learning, through reading and listening, then and only then our students are going to be able to produce this new language, a foreign language, right? And the input is given through recessive or receptive skills, that is reading and listening, right? So reading does not mean reading their course books. Reading should not be limited to their course books. They should be introduced to different kind of reading text, as Amol and I discussed in the session, right? I would suggest create a book corner in your classroom, right? And keep some good books for them to read, and every week or at least twice a month, have a book review session with your students, right? Then you could even encourage them to improve their writing skills and reading skills, to have their own class bulletin and have it pasted on the school notice boards, or have them talk about this bulletin in the school assembly. And of course, it should be there right on the walls of your classroom, so that they're encouraged not just to write, but in order to write well, they'll have to read a lot. Yeah. So indirectly, you are encouraging them to do their extensive reading, which is more than what they do with their course books. You could also, just to keep them abreast with the current affairs and things happening in the world, you could also have a news jar or a classroom news board. Keep an empty jar in the class, and every week, each student has to come with one interesting piece of news, which they drop in the jar. And at the end of the next week, they discuss about the interesting piece of news, which really, caught their attention. That way, you'll end up improving the reading and speaking skills, right? And in order to talk about that piece of news, they'll have to read more. So all these activities would encourage your students to read a lot. That way, in the end, they'll end up enriching their vocabulary. They'll have better sentence formation while they're writing. And of course, their general knowledge also would increase. Yeah. So it's a win-win situation. Yeah. So now we move on to insight number 3. Next slide, please. Yeah. So while you are teaching grammar, please be careful. Don't be overzealous and, focus only on the form, right? Rather, focus on the meaning and relevance of a grammar structure in real life. As we know that we have to keep using tenses and keep, changing tenses in our conversation, in our writing. So while you are teaching tenses, please find some relevance, like we discussed for simple past tense. Each tense has relevance. Each tense has specific real life situations which you need to think of. There are many websites. I just posted a few day before yesterday. And then I think a month, 15, 20 days back, there was a list of websites. So please go to any website which you think out of this list are useful for you. And then if you don't have time to find out relevance, all these websites give you all the relevant activities related to the grammar structures. Please bring those relevant activities to your classroom, right? That's my request to you while you are teaching grammar. Otherwise, the class would become so dry and uninteresting. And the worst or the biggest disadvantage is students will not be able to relate to what you are teaching. And they will not be able to carry it forward in the real world. And we don't want that, right? We want them to be efficient and proficient speakers of English when they go out in the real world. So your ultimate aim should be just that. Because we already talked that more than 30% of the time we speak, right? Only 9 to 10% of the time we write out of these two productive skills, right? And 45% of the time we are listening to English. So in order to develop these skills, you'll have to be very careful to establish relevance, right? Now we move on to, after these 3 insights, we move on to our question and answer session. If anybody has any questions, they can pose it here right on the virtual platform where we are interacting with you, yeah, on this live platform.
Nipa, we have Rinchan, please invite Sir to speak. Rinchan, can you hear me? We have one more message. Please unmute Rinchan.
Yeah. So, sir's ID is the Samsung SM G781B. Honorable Chief Planning Officer, sir is representing the Honorable Deputy Chairman, the Honorable Deputy Commissioner, LHDC Leh Ladakh, and for all the teachers, just for your kind information, sir has been coordinating from the very beginning and following up the entire reinforced teacher training that we have conducted for Nubra and Khalse. And sir, along with the Chief Education Officer, has always been well aware of every training program that has happened so far and about every attendance that has been joined in the RTT. So I'd now request sir to please say a few lines.
You're being spotlighted, sir. Yeah. CPO, sir,
Yes.
please
CPO,
proceed.
sir, please address the teachers. Welcome, sir, and please address the teachers.
I think yours on your mobile phone, you would have to activate the sound because your microphone is not active.
Yeah, so there is actually a headphone option, sir, in on the screen, Zoom screen. You'll just have to click that and click the Wi-Fi cellular data audio connect. So it's actually taking out time from some another important meeting. So please have to please bear with him for a minute.
No problem. We're almost at the end and it's an honor to have him
Yes,
here
yes,
online.
sir, yes, definitely, absolutely.
So on the left corner, you will see the headphones logo. I will just call him. Just a minute.
Yeah, please call him. In the
Yes, so-
meantime, participants, please think about how we can further help you. If you have any questions or thoughts or insights, please type them in the chat in the meantime while the
Or
CPO
you could raise your hand and we would ask you to unmute.
Yeah,
and
Nipa, I think right now just for chat because we won't be able to take hand raises until Sir speaks. So
Okay.
let's put your insights and observations in the chat room. Also, if you have any questions, so that if you type a question, we can take it on after the CPO Sir's address. We would be happy to take up your questions. Please type them in chat. Yes, I think we can hear
Welcome,
you,
sir.
CPO sir.
Yeah, we
Welcome.
can hear you now, sir. Welcome, and please address all of us along with the teachers to encourage us. Thank you so much for being here, first of all, sir.
Okay, fine. It's my pleasure to be present in this webinar. I think you are hearing my voice.
Yes, very
Yes,
clear.
you're audible, sir.
Okay, okay. Since first of all, would like to thank all the team, Golden Mind, the organization as well as the team for this the initiatives and for successfully conducting the second batch, and also we will hope for the next year program as well. Since the program is in a major initiative of LHSC, we have the main concern here is our CC himself. He is taking very actively taking this program so that our teacher get the knowledge which we have never taken such any initiative. Secondly, I will also congratulate the teachers who had participated in this last year's training, as well as we hope from them that they will do good work in the schools and also give such training to further to their colleagues also. I also on the behalf of DC as well as our CC, I would like to share that we are hoping we are taking this initiative next year as well as to other teachers of other remaining blocks also. So I think this the teamwork which have done in the past, same will hoping same thing from you also. The team Golden Mile, the team CO Education Department, the team these teachers. So we need such a cooperation from us, all us, and hope this training will get success in future and at the ground level give best knowledge to the student. Thank you for being giving this time. Thank you all.
Thank you so
so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir,
This
so
will
much.
be a great motivation to all the teachers and including the team of Golden Mile. Our chief trainer also, we have never got an opportunity to thank her, and also our subject expert and our co-trainer. So on behalf of Ladakh, I would personally like to thank everybody, especially our chief trainer, our project head, our subject expert, and our co-trainer. So, and also to my lovely teachers, thank you so much for participating. I understand this is your winter vacation, but we've only observed in your 2.5 hours. So thank you so much. And Honorable Deputy Chairman and Honorable DC, I have sent the Chief Planning Officer as the representative and the CEO, sir. So they are also really hoping that you teachers take the training which you're taking in from these sessions to the classrooms. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Okay,
Rimshin.
so thank you,
Thank you,
Rimshin. And
Rimshin.
moving on to the question answer, I've got a question here. Taran, as you can see, somebody has asked me the difference between narrative text and expository text. Am I
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please
So I'm
pardon
going
me.
to answer that question.
Education officer and chief planning officer, sirs, I understand you are very busy. So if you'd like to exit, you could.
Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you so
sir.
much.
Really,
Thank you,
so much.
sir.
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
you are doing very
Okay.
well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
all.
It means a
Amol,
lot
Farhana,
to
Thank you,
get
sir.
the feedback.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
and all
It's
the
all,
people of Golden. Thank you
it
so much.
could not have been possible without all of your support, sir. And thanks a lot for that, sir.
Thank you indeed. It is our pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Have a wonderful year ahead. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So moving on to our question. Yeah. What is the difference between narrative text and expository text? Now, a narrative text is something which narrates, describes events, a story, a situation, right? So it could be fictional or non-fictional, but an expository text is something which is non-fictional. It provides you with information, but it is not a story. Yeah. So the main difference lies here is whether it could be a fiction or non-fiction, whether it could be a story or just an informative text. When we are discussing a report, when we are reading an article, it is, although it describes something, it still cannot be classified as a narrative text. It is always an expository text. But if we are reading about an interesting historical event, it is a narrative, right? Because it puts events in their chronological perspective. That is how it happened according to the time. Yeah. So there is a fine line of demarcation between narrative text and expository. Anything else? Thanks for asking this question. Yes, any other question? Tarana, can you spot any question?
No, I don't spot any other questions. We just have a comment from Sering Angmo saying, can we carry out workshops where we can invite educators and academics for training and orientation of students and teachers?
Sering, my answer to you is you already are heading
Having-
our ELT teachers group at Khalsa, if I'm not mistaken, and we would love to watch you grow. Not just an educator, but as a leader also in the field of education. Please go ahead, carry out such workshop, but with clear objectives. And in that, doing that, if you need our help, this panel's we are always there to help you. Please go ahead, do that. Yeah.
Also, if I may come in at this point, for Ma'am Siriangmo's query, if she writes a letter to Golden Mile or LHDC, we can maybe induce her sister who's doing a PhD or the educators she's asking in the next year's program. So
Yeah,
they
she
can
could be
request a
included.
letter.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Do that, Sering. Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to tell you to all those teachers of Khalsa's own ELT group, that I'm not watching too many activities happening in your group. So please arrange some activities such as a discussion or a book review, or if you want any extra information related to any of your teaching aspects in the classroom, invite us and we'll be available on Zoom. I promise you that, but of course, inform us in advance so that we can arrange according to our convenience. And we could address you guys, and we could even we would love to listen in while you are discussing your issues and how you solve them. Yeah.
I
At the
also
end of
want
the
to,
day, all of us are learners.
yes, and I wanted to add something here, Nipa. How many teachers here who are online today have looked at our video casts, particularly the ones on peer learning and peer observation? If you haven't yet, this is a perfect time. It's winter time. You're at home. Please catch up on the video cast. There is a mine of information and knowledge there. And we encourage you to set up peer observations based on how we have explained it to you on the video casts.
Because in April, be sure that we are going to visit you unexpectedly in your classroom while you are teaching. So
Surprise.
we are just cautioning you that please start practicing, classroom. You already have the classroom observation format. You've already gone through 2 phases, and you already know how to design your lesson and execute them, right? Amol and I have provided you the examples of how you could carry out a lesson, be it reading, be it speaking, right? Be it a grammar lesson, be it a listening lesson. You already have a fair idea, and we'll be approaching writing in March. Yeah, we'll be dealing with writing modules in March. So that completes all the 4 skills, including grammar, with you guys. So please start designing lessons and, practicing that so that when we actually visit you in April, the panel, you will have many things to on display, and you might have some questions also, which we could solve on the spot. Right, Amol, Tarana?
Yes,
Another
Absolutely.
thing is,
absolutely.
by the end of this month, we are coming up with a panel discussion with one of the British Council experts, Ms. Raj Lakshmi Murthy. All three of us will be here, and it would be an interesting panel discussion on Facebook Live. So if you
Yes.
have any questions, the topic would be how to encourage more and more speaking among learners, right? So if
More
you have
classroom
any
participation.
questions, keep a list of it, and please be sure to participate and listen in while we are live on Facebook. Yeah, the date and time would be advertised as usual by our team right in advance, so you won't, you'll be able to adjust your time as well. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Now, if anybody doesn't have any questions, shall we conclude? Tarana, Amol, Ranjan?
Absolutely.
Yes,
But
think so.
before we do, I want to ask everybody this one last time to turn on their videos, because this will be a
Yes.
classroom photo as well.
Except-
And it'll also allow us to take attendance one last time. Sewang, please be taking screenshots. I'll be doing that too. So please, as many of you as possible, please turn on your cameras, and we'll be posting these pictures on our Facebook page very soon. So 1, 2, 3, smile, everybody. Yeah.
Siring Dolkar, Siring Lamo, Siring Lanzes, Stanzanamo, Rinchen Dolma, Stanzan Odzer, Stanzanamo. Please switch on your videos. Ma'am, Sitan Samdu, Stan RMS.
Can
Namgyal
we request
Dolkar,
you to switch on your
Stanzanamo.
videos, please? Thank you.
Everybody switch on your videos. Vivo 1938 still hasn't added the name, so we won't be able to give you attendance. You have been with us throughout, so please quickly change your name from the participants widget
Thank
that you
you.
see on the screen.
Yeah, and all of you have been consistently here. We really
Now,
appreciate that today.
I request my team also to switch on their videos.
Yes. Please, GML team, everybody, please switch on and keep smiling. I'm trying to take screenshots so that we have everybody here. And thank you
Especially-
again.
Ma'am,
Thanks a lot for your
Ma'am,
cooperation,
Dolkar.
all the teachers. You've been like really there with us throughout the journey, and it's sheer pleasure to interact with you all every time. Every time we interact, be it virtual or face to face, it's been great pleasure and delight. Thanks
Yeah,
a
and
lot.
today we are
Thank
here
you.
from 3 different time zones. So thank you, Amol, Nipa,
Thank you.
Rinchan, always a pleasure. We
And
have,
thank you to you, Tarana. You've been moderating and being like spot on for everything. You've been so specific about this establishing this digital platform. Without you, I mean, it wouldn't have been this smooth.
it's
Thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you. I
Yes,
enjoy.
Rinken and Shwag
Thank
and
you.
the
Thank you,
GML team.
everyone.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All
By the way,
right.
for everybody else's kind information, it is late evenings in UK and where
It's
our
5 a.m.
trainers-
in the UK and midnight in Los Angeles. So
So they're up in the middle of the night to train you all, just so you understand
Except me.
how important it is.
Yeah.
you get the credit too, Amol, for
Yeah.
being
So we
for
thank
being
all our
available.
very, heartful, grateful appreciation to our trainers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rinchan. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks to the GML team for supporting. Sewang, thank you for all the admin today, coordination. And we'll see you online soon through the video cast, through more panel discussions. So stay tuned, be active on the Facebook group. Okay, and
And
everybody
also,
have a
also looking forward to meet all of you again for phase 3 as soon as schools reopen in
Yes.
March
yes,
sometime.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we will sign
right.
off. Have a great
Yes.
day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you. Thank
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
teachers would like to say a few things? I mean, we can.
Yeah, if anybody would like to share something, please go ahead. This is a good time.
I think everybody can unmute, but the moment someone is, we can mute again.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you for your
Thanks,
comments
Sarah.
as well.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye, Sarang.
Anyone
Bye.
has feedback,
Bye, bye.
please put it in the chat as well. If you have any
Ranjan,
feedback,
bye.
in the chat.
Bye, everyone.
Bye
Have
bye.
a great
Bye.
vacation. Yeah. And take care of yourselves.
Yes, yes. Okay, you may disconnect. The meeting will be on for a few more moments as we finish our setup conclusion. So please go ahead and disconnect.
Teachers, all of you can disconnect, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Please go ahead and disconnect teachers. Bye-bye. Look at that cutie.
I know. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hi, hello.
Saying happy teachers.
All right, teachers, you may please go ahead and disconnect. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's see if we can
Teachers are requested to disconnect, please.
Please
Is he
disconnect.
also a
The webinar
participant in the
is
next
over.
phase?
All right, teachers are disconnecting. Please go ahead.
Right.